Kind of my theme here is I want to sell guys where the perception is a bit different than the reality, right? The other guy that I think that applies to clearly is RJ Harvey right now. The perception might be in certain leagues that he's like a rising young talent, just had a pretty solid back half of his rookie season. The reality is he's just turned 25 years old. He's only like 6 to 10 months younger than guys like Kyren Williams, Ken Walker, Javonte Williams. This is not like a young player. I also think the perception is, well, he's just on top of this backfield, right? J.K. Dobbins is an unrestricted free agent. What could really happen to RJ Harvey? I think he's one of the running backs at the most risk of taking a value hit from either free agency or the draft. As a rookie, J.K. Dobbins beat him out in every single efficiency stat. I think Harvey would be near the top of my list.
We are talking dynasty trades, namely sell high dynasty trades. Theo Greminger joined by Thomas Tipple and Ryan Heath right here over at Fantasy Points Dynasty YouTube. Guys, there's no better feeling in Dynasty. You know, a lot of people like to talk about, hey, I bought low on this guy, and then he ended up helping me for years. That's a great feeling in Dynasty. But there's really no better feeling than when you can time the very top of the market and sell a guy for more than he's worth in like 6 months, or you can sell a guy before he starts to really, really fall off. Those kind of trades keep your Dynasty teams ultra competitive, and you're constantly cashing out. We're going to attempt to do it today, and this is not for the faint of heart. We've got some names that we're going to talk about today that might make you sick to your stomach, so bear with us. This is never fun when we talk Dynasty sell highs, but we're going to start it out today. Ryan Heath, you've got a fan favorite. You've got a fantasy football near legend. You've got a former league winner to start us out.
Yeah, man, it's 2026. We've turned the calendar. I am back to trashing on some of these old running backs that have owned me time and time again. But I think this is the time to get out on Saquon Barkley in Dynasty. And I love Saquon Barkley. Declines are hard to predict. All the caveats, of course. But here's the case. He just turned 29. That is the first year that we see a major risk of a dip in production per all of my age curves research. At age 29, fantasy RB1s typically score about 74% of their career peak of their average, right? So this is about the time when any given year, it could be like the Saquon Barkley fall off year. Don't know that it's this year, but you need to view him as just a totally season to season asset at this point. So really what that means is, what are his chances of giving you an elite season in 2026? And I would argue that right now that is being overstated in the market. Just another kind of thing in terms of falling off, just at 0.15 missed tackles forced per touch last year. My research found 0.14 is like kind of the threshold of death, where these older running backs, once they get around there, it also increases their risk of falling off. So Saquon just kind of teetering right on that edge in terms of some of these predictive metrics. But really the issue I have with Saquon is I'm not all that sold on his 2026 outlook. Jeff Stoutland, the Eagles offensive line coach, just left potentially out of frustration with Nick Sirianni just kind of taking over the offense at times last year. We have Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson considering retirement. This entire Eagles rushing attack could just look very different. It already wasn't great in 2025, nowhere near kind of the heights of efficiency that we saw from Barkley in 2024. And when it comes to the Saquon Barkley archetypes, these like non-elite pass catchers, it's very, very important that they're on these awesome teams if you're going to get elite fantasy results. I just wrote a ton of words about how I'm much more open to this archetype now going forward, based on all of my fantasy football takeaways, studying the ADP market, doing all of that. That article is on the site right now, fantasypoints.com, Ryan Heath's 2025 takeaways. But that doesn't really fit for Barkley. We aren't that high on the Eagles right now and their chances in 2026. This is not like a good vibes team at the moment. So I am seeing Barkley as inherently very risky. The upside, I don't think, is as high as it's been the past couple of years. So I'm pretty happy to tier. There's a couple pivots you can make from Barkley. If your team is still a contender, you want to just roll him into another running back that has a pretty equivalent chance of scoring you a ton of fantasy points, but is going to let you tier down, capture some more value. You can just try to flip him for a guy like Derrick Henry. He scored 2 more fantasy points per game last year. The Saquon Barkley for Henry and a second type of trades should be doable. Or if you want to pivot your team, I would just try to get any 27-1 for a Saquon Barkley. I think that is totally fair value. You are punting off all of the risk from him. That's just an easy way to quickly retool your team. Or if you are in search of 2026 picks, I'd say anything from 104, 105 on up in 2026. I would be happy taking for Saquon Barkley right now. So that's where I'm at. Barkley could absolutely have another 2, another 3 elite fantasy seasons in him. But yeah, you can just say the same thing about Derrick Henry, about a lot of these kind of cheaper, lower valued running backs in the market right now. So that's what I would be trying to flip to. That's kind of where my thoughts are here.
Thomas Tipple, you got another running back to discuss, and one that's been a very strong asset. We've got a ton of running back utility from this player over the last few years. Is this the year that it finally falls apart? Let us know.
I'm going to take a very different approach to what some people might think as soon as they hear the name. I'm going to talk about Kyren Williams, and this has nothing to do with Blake Corum. I don't think Blake Corum is, quote, coming for Kyren Williams' job. The tax man is coming for Kyren Williams' job. Kyren Williams signed his 3-year extension, but what a lot of people don't realize is there's not as much safety in that contract as you might think. In 2027, per over the cap, per Spotrac, he has no guaranteed money in 2027. He is easily cuttable, and that kind of coincides with the potential Matthew Stafford retirement. Sean McVay had already contemplated retirement at one point. When this ship sort of sails, you can see how a 25, 26-year-old running back who's not the fastest, not the most efficient, who's a good all-around back, might find himself in free agency. If you look at the ADP from 2025 to right now, as we are here in 2026, there's already kind of an ADP decline. This could be your last chance. And this is, again, off of the back of another RB1 type season. His 2025 ADP was at 44. In my ADP source, I have him at 57.1. We're already seeing a decline. What does that tell us? Well, it's definitely not from his success rate, 63.7% against zone, 62.1% in man. If you look at the top 20 running backs in points per game, he kind of leads the pack in both of those success rates. He's a very good player. But the allure for him early was 90% of the snaps, 70% of the snaps. We're already starting to see some cracks in the armor. And now we're seeing a already declining asset at 25, 26 that has free agency written all over him. He's valuable because of the offense he's in, not because of the player he is, in my opinion. All that being said, a lot like Ryan said with Saquon Barkley, I have Kyren Williams in the same trade tier as Saquon Barkley, so I'm happy making a lot of the same pivots. However, I am attacking wide receivers with somebody like Kyren Williams, somebody like a T. Higgins, somebody like a Zay Flowers, who for some reason the Dynasty community seems uninterested in, which makes no sense to me ever. I'm getting out on Kyren, not necessarily because of Blake Corum. I can just see the writing on the wall for the Rams offense and Kyren specifically when that dead cap money runs out.
Yeah, I think that you made a couple of excellent points. Love the Zay Flowers call out too, Thomas. I think that's a fantastic pivot off of Kyren Williams and a number of running backs for that matter. I think Zay Flowers we're all sort of high on heading into 2026. But you guys, I feel like, went a little safe here with these running back sells. I'm going to go with one that people are going to be maybe unsubscribing from the channel, maybe disgusted by, and there's going to be a lot of people over at Fantasy Points, probably Scott Barrett, disgusted by this one as well. Potential Exodia quarterback for Scott this year, but for me, it's also a potential dynasty sell, and it's Jaxson Dart. And I love Jaxson Dart, and I have plenty of exposure to Jaxson Dart in Dynasty. But guys, this is like the found money theory in Dynasty. Last year, I got Jaxson Dart at the 112, at the 201, sometimes the 202 in my Dynasty rookie drafts, and he has been an absolute rocket ship to the moon. He's all the way up to quarterback 9 on several sites. Dynasty Data Lab has him at quarterback 9. Keep Trade Cut has him, I believe, at quarterback, double checking this one, quarterback 9 as well. So quarterback 9 for Jaxson Dart, completely locked in here. Can I turn Jaxson Dart, last year's 201, into Jeremiah Love, this year's 101 in rookie drafts? Can I turn Jaxson Dart into Justin Herbert fairly easily? I think those trades are there for me. And then when I look at tier down possibilities, I can get a Trevor Lawrence plus from some dynasty managers for Jaxson Dart. And I understand reasons people don't want to get out of Jaxson Dart. It's one of the most fantasy-friendly profiles there is. He had 9 rushing touchdowns in only 14 games played, nearly 500 rushing yards. He has a true wide receiver 1 in Malik Neighbors, arguably one of the most talented skill position players in football attached to him. Jaxson Dart's one where, if I'm wrong on this one, it could really, really cost you. But we only have to look at the last 2 years, guys, to see the rookie QBs steaming up in Dynasty ADP in terms of startup value, in terms of Dynasty rankings. A couple seasons back, CJ Stroud steamed up towards the top 5 of the quarterback rankings. Anthony Richardson was also right there with him because of the allure of Anthony Richardson's rushing upside. CJ Stroud coming off of a offensive rookie of the year season. And then we look at last year. Jaden Daniels was going off the board as the QB1 overall in a number of dynasty startups. All of those players immediately lost some value. NFL defenses adjust and have sample size. And I'm gonna phone a friend here. Ryan Heath, what do we think about the offensive coordinator hire in New York? Matt Nagy, not so good for the prospects of Jaxson Dart going nuclear this year. Let everybody know anything negative about Mr. Nagy over here.
Yeah, I would call the hire uninspiring. There's just nothing to really latch onto with Nagy that gives you any confidence. In fact, I have the opposite from this. So just looking at Patrick Mahomes' career, you can kind of trace when he stopped being the most efficient quarterback in the league to exactly when Matt Nagy arrived in Kansas City. So in his only season where he both did not have Tyreek Hill, so the first year they traded away Tyreek Hill, and before Matt Nagy arrived, Mahomes was still second best in the NFL in adjusted net yards per attempt with 7.9. Over the past 3 years with Matt Nagy in Kansas City, Mahomes down to just 6.2 adjusted net yards per attempt. That ranks 20th roughly in the NFL over that period. So yeah, there's just no point in Matt Nagy's career where you can point to, oh, he has coordinated an efficient offense. I mean, Mahomes was scoring when he was running last year, is what you could say. That would be the counter argument. I don't know if I'm going to fully join you on the sell Jaxson Dart train, but I totally understand why, just based on this hire, it being, very disappointing.
Yeah, it's really more of a value cash out, where when we get to this point next year, are we going to be looking at Jaxson Dart as a top 5 quarterback in Dynasty? Possibly, and then maybe I cost you. But I think this is an opportunity for you to cash out on Jaxson Dart, potentially at the top of his value, and get yourself something that is maybe a little bit more insulated. The allure of a Justin Herbert, a Jeremiah Love, we're pretty close to that one there, guys. And we've got a number of other sell-high players in Dynasty to go over, but we've got to let you know about a way to get 10% off of any Fantasy Points subscription. Use the code DYNASTY, and get yourself 10% off. You're going to have access to my Dynasty rankings, to Thomas's Dynasty rankings, to Ryan's Dynasty rankings, to all of our amazing tools and articles, and we've got you covered all offseason long. Plus, if you want to get prepared for your Dynasty rookie drafts, there's no better place than over at Fantasy Points. Brett Whitefield's prospect guide is going to be dropping on the site, and we're going to be covering this rookie class extensively. So check it out over at fantasypoints.com. And if you want more of Thomas and Ryan, make sure you're subscribed to the Dynasty Points podcast. Dynasty Points, you can find it right here over at Fantasy Points Dynasty YouTube, but make sure you're also subscribed to the podcast, and also my podcast, Dynasty Life. Check it out on the podcast feed as well. Let's keep this going. Ryan Heath, what else do you have?
Yeah, so kind of my theme here is I want to sell guys where the perception is a bit different than the reality, right? With Saquon, the perception, I would say, is that he has a great chance of an elite season in 2026. I would disagree with that reality, right? The other guy that I think that applies to clearly is RJ Harvey right now. So the perception might be in certain leagues that he's like a rising young talent, just had a pretty solid back half of his rookie season. The reality is he's just turned 25 years old. He's only like 6 to 10 months younger than guys like Kyren Williams, Ken Walker, Javonte Williams. This is not like a young player. If you drafted RJ Harvey in your rookie draft on a contender, you got exactly what you wanted. You were looking for, okay, I'll spend my late first to hopefully get a lot of production, at least in the back half of this season, maybe help me win a championship. And that's exactly what you got. You got your 15.4 fantasy points per game from Harvey from week 11 on 15.2 expected, 11th in target share over that span, like roughly bell cow usage after J.K. Dobbins went down. That's great. You got exactly what you were hoping for out of him. Now we turn the calendar over to 2026. I also think the perception is, well, he's just on top of this backfield, right? J.K. Dobbins is an unrestricted free agent. What could really happen to RJ Harvey? I think he's one of the running backs at the most risk of taking a value hit from either free agency or the draft, or just when the cards flip over in week 1 of 2026 and he's no longer the clear bell cow lead back. I like RJ Harvey. I liked him as a prospect. I was telling people to draft him and all that. But as a rookie, J.K. Dobbins beat him out in every single efficiency stat. He wasn't like totally blowing me or most people away on the field, whether it's yards per carry, explosive play rate, missed tackles forced per attempt, touch, all of them J.K. Dobbins performed better in. And now you are just presented with the chance to kind of flip Harvey, get all of your value back and even a little bit more than what you paid for him, and just remove all of the risk of holding him through the offseason. A few kind of pivots, trades that I like. You can try to tier up a little bit with Harvey. Something like Harvey and a 2 for a Chris Olave makes a lot of sense to me. You can flip Harvey for like a Josh Jacobs and literally any draft pick. It would not take much. I think Jacobs is way better than a coin flip to outscore Harvey this year. Jacobs a couple years older, of course, but yeah, getting any sort of value in exchange for that, I am happy to do. I like Harvey. He's a fun player, but he is not anywhere close to like a risk-free dynasty asset right now. He's not the type of guy I want to be holding through the offseason. Some leagues are going to be like in on this and like understand the risk of holding running backs. In those cases, yeah, sometimes you do have to hold and pray through the draft and hope that you kind of come out unscathed. But yeah, just in those sort of more like classic, maybe more like home style leagues where you can kind of flip running backs for picks and for wide receivers without a lot of issues, I think Harvey would be near the top of my list, and is a guy I actually have a lot of and am actually going to be working to unload over these next couple of months.
Thomas Tipple, you've got a couple guys to talk about here, but they're sort of all aligned in their draft class and the year they're approaching.
Yeah, stay with me here, viewers. Don't leave when you hear a name of one of your favorite year 3 wide receivers. But I have Brian Thomas Jr., Rome Odunze, Ladd McConkey, and Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of piled into one group. 2 of these guys were being taken in the second round last year. One of them was sitting in and around the 1-2 turn in Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey in and around the 211, and Marvin Harrison Jr., who we had many fights over between Ladd and Marv in terms of value last year on Dynasty Points, just to have them pretty much back-to-back again this year, a round or 2 later. The reason I have them here is because I don't feel like they separate themselves from the great wide receiver nesting doll type tiers, and this is shown by them being passed again by Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 12, Chris Olave, wide receiver 13, George Pickens, wide receiver 10, has passed him. Rashee Rice and all of his troubles off the field and limitations on the field has now passed them this year. It is not a good trend for year 3 wide receivers to be kind of left to the wayside to some of these older veteran wide receivers that we assumed were incapable of popping off. There's no way, if you look at last year, you thought that someone like Chris Olave, who was the ultimate nesting doll type wide receiver that scores like one of 10 to 12 others, was going to pass somebody like Brian Thomas Jr., like Ladd McConkey. There have been a lot of moves in the dynasty landscape. Not all of them very flattering. Question marks in Arizona. Question marks with usage in Jacksonville. All over the place. Rome Odunze apparently developed the same hands as Quentin Johnston at some point during last season. No idea what's happening with that offense either. And I think the dynasty community is sleeping on a few other players that not only do I think will score similar, but will have higher upside on a week-to-week basis. T. Higgins, A.J. Brown, Zay Flowers, Jameson Williams, and Devontae Smith are all going after these year 3 wide receivers, and I believe they provide you not only similar, but better production on a week-to-week basis with similar, if not better, upside. Being able to tier from any of these year 3 type wide receivers, these nesting doll staples, to any of the high floor, high producing type wide receivers is an absolute smash play, in my opinion. A great way to give you production now and value in the future. And look, if you're telling me that you're unhappy having an extra second, an extra 2 seconds, while not noticing the difference in receiver production, I would call you crazy, because those seconds are real easy to turn into running backs later. I don't know what Zay Flowers and Jameson Williams and T. Higgins have to do to get a little bit more love in the dynasty community, but they are definitely being passed over for 4 wide receivers that we are all holding on to hope that somehow become the next JSN, and it can't be all 4.
I love it. And Thomas, I think when you talk about dynasty trade timing, you have the optimism of the offseason right now. Certainly the coaching hires in Los Angeles and Arizona have given like a lot of hope to McConkey and Harrison, and then the BTJ situation, I mean, wild as it gets last year. So really, really like that one. For me, I'm going to go with another kind of top of the food chain, one-off position guy, and it's a player that I also really like. And so over at Fantasy Points, the way that we do the dynasty rankings is you can read our individual positional rankings. So you can see how Thomas ranks the wide receivers, how Ryan ranks the wide receivers, how I rank the wide receivers, and so on. But at the tight end position, I actually think this player is appropriately ranked, but I'm still kicking the tires and looking to see if I can move off of Tyler Warren. The problem is, guys, there's this gravitational pull right now where you have Brock Bowers and then you have Trey McBride. Those guys are in their sort of own little universe as these incredible dynasty assets. Then you've got Colston Loveland, who's being sort of pulled into that gravitational pull. And then right next to Colston Loveland is Tyler Warren. The one player out of these 4 that I think is clearly the 4th best talent and clearly the 4th best dynasty asset is Tyler Warren. And he got off to such a red-hot, fast start last year in Dynasty. He showed he's going to be a very, very effective weapon at the tight end position. But does he have tight end 1 overall in his range of outcomes? He's certainly being priced that way. I'm looking at the startup values right now, guys, over at Dynasty Data Lab, and he's going right alongside the 102 in Dynasty rookie drafts, and he's going only a few spots behind Colston Loveland. Seems rich for Tyler Warren. I can turn Tyler Warren into Harold Fannin Plus. I can turn Tyler Warren into Tucker Kraft Plus. I can turn him into Sam Laporta Plus. There's a bunch of trades where I can tier down from Tyler Warren. And then, guys, I'm also going to kick the tire. I'm going to see what I can do to turn Tyler Warren into one of those two guys at the very top. Even if it means I trade another premium asset on top, that's how you use Tyler Warren. I think he makes sense for tier down trades. I think he makes sense for tier up trades. And if you hold on to him, understand you've got a really good asset that's not an elite asset. You're not going to get tight end 1 overall in this range of outcomes. And guys, the offensive ecosystem in Indianapolis right now revolves around Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is a very good bet to lead all running backs in touches next year. For me, Tyler Warren, it's going to take an absolute ton for him to reach that tight end 1 level. So for me, I'm looking to trade Tyler Warren high and looking to cash out on a very strong rookie year and a very insulated asset at the tight end position. Guys, a lot of fun today. We're going to be back. We're going to be talking about dynasty buys. We're going to be covering all the positions. We're going to be doing all of these episodes throughout the offseason. Also, look for Jakob Sanderson to join us very soon in an episode just like this. And if you have a dynasty question that you want to see Thomas, Ryan, myself, and Jacob answer, let us know in the comments, and we're going to get to it this offseason. We got you covered all offseason long right here at Fantasy Points Dynasty YouTube. We're going to help you crush all of your Dynasty leagues this upcoming season. Make sure you're subscribed to Dynasty Points Podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to Dynasty Life as well, and we're going to get after it all offseason long.